The coaching carousel still spins, and we're here to give you the headlines.
College football is always in the news, so we're back on the big mountain to keep you updated.
Hey, it's great to have you here on the mountain. If you're new to our channel, I'm JY. This is my good friend Steve. I cover all things Mountain West. Steve does all things Big Ten, and that is going to be our focus on this episode for Head Coaching Carousel. We did one previous to this. It's been a little while, but we've got more updates that we need to get to. If you're wondering why we have balloons behind us, we just hit our 1,000th subscriber. Again, we want to thank our subscribers. We want to thank our viewers. And, we've been doing a lot of ACC, which is not really our topic of what we want to focus on, but we're really getting into the ACC, FSU, just the lawsuit side of that. So we want to get back to what we really enjoy. That's the Big Ten and the Mountain West, and we're going to start with Steve in the Big Ten. What do you got here with coaching?
Yeah, so, we thought that the coaching carousel had kind of slowed down, almost stopped, as we moved from December into January, and then what happens? We have Nick Saban retiring, possibly the greatest college coach of all time. And as soon as it happened, I said, that's going to start some dominoes.
Right.
And boy, has it ever. We already talked about this with Saban. You had the Washington Huskies coach, DeBoer, going to Alabama. Mm-hmm. I think it's a great hire for them. I think it may take him a little time to get them on board with what he does and his player development. There's going to be some change there. But for today, I want to talk about the Washington Huskies. As they move into their new position in the Big Ten, huge time for them. They had a fantastic season this last year. Went out with a bang, out of the pack. Now, as they come into the Big Ten, they're coming in. Their new coach, Jedd Fisch, who came over from Arizona, has a lengthy resume. I heard some different podcasts. They were talking about him on there, and they're just watching some other things. And I couldn't even keep up with everything that they were listing. So I went and looked at it myself, and it's crazy. He's had, I think, 17 different jobs in 20 years.
Wow.
So he's moved around a lot. He spent NFL time. Every place he went, he was successful. It wasn't like he got fired at a bunch of different places. He just kind of kept moving around, getting a diverse set of experience in college and in the NFL. Mm-hmm. I think it's a great move. Arizona was coming into this season off of a really great, some tremendous momentum. They were looking good. They were in some top 10s, preseason top 10s coming out of the season. So he obviously had them on the right track. But now he moves over to Washington. He's bringing over at least 7 coaches with him, it looks like right now. I don't think as of when we went on, he hadn't totally finalized his staff, but he's bringing at least 7 coaches with him, including Kevin Cummings, the wide receivers coach, Jimmy Daughtry, the quarterback coach, Jordan Papoa, I'm not exactly sure how you say it, but the tight ends coach.
Don't worry, I'm going to struggle with names too.
Scotty Graham, the running backs coach. That one was a little easier. Jason Kagasui,
love it,
I believe.
Yes, you nailed it.
Defensive line coach, and Tyler Owens, who's a strength coach, maybe not an on-field coach, but a huge part of that program. The what he was kind of known for, what he's built is player development, to doing more with less, and a strength coach is a huge part of that. So I think there are just a couple Washington Huskies coaches that from last year that they're trying to maybe keep on staff to offer some continuity, and I think those guys are looking at some other jobs, see if they have a position in Alabama or some other. So we'll see what comes on that.
Did Grubb go? I think it's probably a foregone conclusion that he's going to. Has it hit that Grubb has gone with?
I believe that's official. That Grubb's going to be the offensive coordinator
that's what I've been seeing.
At Alabama, which is a huge move for them.
Oh, my gosh.
There was some talk about Grubb possibly being the head coach here. I don't think he's had any head coaching experience or minimal head coaching experience. I actually would have liked that move to continue the offense. But, they decided to go with just someone who had more experience. I mean, this is the experienced candidate. You can't get more experience than this guy. All the jobs he's had in college and NFL. And what he did in Arizona. I mean, Arizona they were a doormat program, just absolutely terrible. And, he had them on the right track. And that's the hope, I'm sure, for Washington that he can do the same thing there.
Well,
Now,
and he got them on the right track in a short amount of time.
yes.
Right? I mean, I don't know how many years he was there, but it wasn't like it took him 10 years or something like that to build a program and build his program, so to speak. I mean, he got things done pretty quickly there.
Correct. And a big part of that was their quarterback, and I knew I was going to bungle his name. I think it's pronounced Fafua. It's
Okay.
Fafua or Fatua. Anyways, the quarterback there in Arizona, fantastic young quarterback, definite playmaker, and the signs are that he will probably stay in Arizona. So that's the thing. Can Jed Fish bring him to Washington, or if not, is he going to have to start over at that position?
Right.
So that's going to be the big thing, and that's in college football, it's all about the quarterback position. That's just the way it goes. So we'll see. Can he get that position turned around? How long? Because that can jumpstart something.
Right.
If he can't, if he has to start from scratch, because they have no. So Washington Huskies right now have 0 scholarship quarterbacks on the roster.
That's a tough place to be.
Exactly, yeah. So I think for the most part, Washington Husky fans should be prepared a bumpy first-year entry into the Big Ten, which I know is disappointing because they darn near won the national championship. Right. I'm sure they were looking at coming in strong, and now this happens. It is what it is. So I think they're looking at a bumpy first year, but we'll see how quickly he can get that staff up, how quickly he can get the players in there, how many transfers can he get from that Arizona team. It's a great position to be in. Washington, great school. They have a great football budget there. They're going into one of the premier elite conferences.
Right.
So I think it's a great position for him, but we'll see how long it takes to get him up and running.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the domino that fell with that hire.
Yeah,
if
so
you're ready.
Yeah, and so I was just thinking about that. That was what I wanted to ask you, was basically with Jed Fish going from Arizona over to Washington, almost all of the candidates and the people we're talking about were Mountain West candidates. So what do you got for us?
So news hits Brent Brennan from San Jose State filling that position. I think it's a really strong hire for them. I mean, Brennan had a really good tenure there at San Jose State. They won the Mountain West Championship back in 2020. They were actually ranked 24th in the country by the end of that season. He was the coach of the year in the Mountain West that year, and he has a 34-48 record overall. So you look at the record and you say, ooh, that's maybe not, what are we doing here? But you got to remember, this is a school, San Jose State. This is a school that was one of the toughest places to coach in the country and get a quality coach in the country. They also had one of the, and it's changing, but they had one of the lowest athletic resource programs. Resources, not just monetary, just resources in general in the country as well. Again, that's changing, and that has really changed, especially with the resources with the opening of the Spartan Athletic Center. Just opened it up. It has new offices. It has meeting rooms. It's got dining facilities. It's got everything you would think a D1 program would have in this day and age. Brennan made $2.3 million in the Mountain West, was the second highest by just a smidgen out there. So, I will say moving forward then, I don't really want to necessarily talk about Arizona, but we know Brennan's leaving. And he really has brought San Jose State up, as well as that school. You need the resources to do that. You look at some of this realignment stuff, and resources are huge right now. I think having that $2.3 million, I'm not saying they're necessarily going to bring somebody in where Brennan was, but that could pull some people. Obviously, that's a nice chunk of change for a coach in the Mountain West Conference, anywhere even close to that. Some interest that I've seen, UNLV, Brennan Marion, we've talked about him before. He's the OC there at UNLV. Another guy we talked about, Brian Harsin, the former Boise and Auburn head coach. But the guy that it looks like he's going to get the job, and by the time we get this posted, I'm guessing it probably will be announced that he does have the job when we're recording this on a Sunday. It hasn't been named yet, but I think it's all but a foregone conclusion. Are you good at this name?
No, you go ahead.
Ken N.
Yeah.
I'm not going. Ken N. I should know it. I should have done my research. I didn't. Ken N. He's risen to the top. Everybody thinks this guy's going to be the new head coach. He's the former Navy coach, went 109-82 with Navy. He also was in the mix for the San Diego State head coaching job that obviously got filled. He's currently the tight end coach at UNLC. He's really known for his
UCLA, right?
UCLA. Yes.
UCLA.
What did I say?
I think you
did I flip flop San Diego State and UCLA?
You had UNLV and UCLA together.
Oh, my apologies. So he's a tight end coach at UCLA. Yes, tight end coach at U. I got to stop talking so fast, Steve. But anyway, but he's known for the triple option. He has said that he wants an OC that is going to be pass heavy, wide open style, ready to move on or expand beyond that triple option play. So, by the time we get this posted, he may be named head coach of of San Jose State at that point. So yeah,
I'd love to chime in on him as a longtime Navy fan.
Absolutely.
I will take a shot. We'll say Ken Niramalotalo.
That sounds pretty darn close.
Okay, all right. Yeah.
I know it ends in Alo.
Yes. Okay. Fantastic coach at Navy. Had a long and storied career there. They were the long run of beating Army and just a great record there, and just really built that program back up into just a respectable power again instead of being a total doormat. I was completely shocked when Navy fired him, and I think that there was a lot of people upset about that. He got time to go hang out with Chip Kelly there at UCLA. In addition to being, like you said, tight end coach, I think they made him like the head leadership guy at UCLA.
Yes, I did see something like that. Yes, I didn't write that down, but there was another type of.
Yes.
I don't want to call it fluff,
right?
Some other more ancillary type of position.
Yeah, and I think Chip Kelly really gave him a chance to kind of look at how to run a modern program. Mm-hmm. He didn't have all the responsibilities of being the head coach. He could kind of take a step back, look at Chip Kelly's offense, look at running a modern program with NIL, the transfer portal, and all that kind of stuff. I think it's a great reset button. And if that is who they hire, which it looks like, again, by the time we publish, I think it's a great hire. The biggest thing, like you said, though, is getting a new offense in. In this day and age, to me, I feel like only the service academies can run that triple option.
Right.
And it just is what it is. And he's not there anymore. So with his coaching, his leadership, and if he can bring in a young offensive-minded coach to run sort of a Chip Kelly spread, fast-paced, pass-it-heavy offense, that would be awesome. That'd be knock it out of the park.
Agreed. So that's where we're at. That's a team we really haven't talked about hardly at all in both of our transfer portal episodes or our head coaching or coaching carousel. Obviously, you wouldn't talk about it until they need a new head coach, but a team that deserves some time on the Big Mountain, so they're getting it. I'll have about 4 more Mountain West teams I want to go over. We'll go over them fairly quickly. A team that we have talked about a lot on the Big Mountain, the San Diego State Aztecs, both, again, in terms of transfer portal and, obviously, in terms of their head coach. So Sean Lewis named head coach there. He's starting to lay out his staff. Bill O'Boyle will be the run game coordinator and O-line. They spent 5 years together. Lewis and O'Boyle spent about 5 years together in Kent State. Also pulling over another guy he worked with at Kent State, Matt Johnson. Again, they were there for about 5 years and a year prior in Syracuse. He's going to be the offensive coordinator. Eric Schmidt, he had spent the last 2 years in Washington, and he was doing special teams and edge work, and he's going to be the defensive coordinator there for San Diego State. So Sean Lewis getting his coordinators in position, obviously relying on some names that he's worked with in the past. So good to see that. I think you talked about what Washington's going to look like. It might take a little bit of time. I think San Diego State's going to take a little bit of time. That's another school I'm really watching on for a quarterback, kind of like Washington. Yep. If they can pull in somebody here from the transporter, yes, a lot of the big names are gone. There's still some quality out there, and you're seeing some guys kind of a little bit late getting into the game here, especially the Alabama stuff. I know we don't want to talk about players right now, but still a lot going on with transfer portal stuff. So just as you said the last time, give your Aztecs a little bit of time. You got a new coaching staff. You're going to have a lot of player turnover. But I like where they're headed there. And they should really like that this looks to be like a much more high-powered offensive coaching team than what they had in the past. So let's talk about New Mexico, a team that Steve loves to talk about. So obviously they hire Bronco Mendenhall. He was hired at 5 years, $6 million. This is the highest paid head coach in New Mexico Lobo history. Obviously, head coach for about 11 years at BYU, 6 years at Virginia. So he's 135 and 81 as a head coach. just a great hire. I mean, you look at all the articles out there and everybody's going, this is awesome. I mean, I haven't seen any negatives about this. I don't know why you would have any negatives. Just awesome, awesome, awesome. He left UVA saying he just kind of needed to reassess. I don't think he was quite sure where he was at in his professional and maybe personal life. And he took a couple years off, but he said he quickly realized he wanted to get back in the game. So he's got this head coaching gig here at New Mexico. I'm anxious to see what they have. You know, they've just kind of been sputtering here over the last couple years. I feel like if they can get some solidity, bring in some strong coaches, bring in some strong talent, it won't take much for them to be, talked about in the Mountain West. Maybe not for a Mountain West championship, but certainly right in the middle of that pack, pulling some upsets and doing some good things. So I'm excited down there for the Lobos.
Yeah, if I could chime in real quick, both of these two teams that you start out with, I think yes, this next year is going to be tough as they adjust to a new coaching staff and all that.
Right.
But as program-wise, I have stock up for both of these programs going forward. So we were doing some research on another episode that we're planning, and I was really surprised to look at the resources and the revenue that both of these schools are bringing in, their athletic departments. San Diego State has that new stadium that we talked about.
Right.
They're bringing in a good amount of revenue. I think with these hires, they both look like they're serious about kind of moving into modern college football and doing well. Bronco Mendenhall, great coach at BYU, very highly respected.
Yeah.
He goes into the ACC, takes that Virginia job, which is tough. Like Virginia just doesn't win a lot of games consistently. There's not a massive commitment from their administration and their fan base to be really good and compete in the ACC. It's one of those schools that feels like they're like the Ivy League of the ACC kind of thing. It's tough there, and he I think his reputation took a couple hits when he left Virginia, but it is tough to win at Virginia. They really haven't done that much better since he left.
Right.
I like that hire a lot, and I think New Mexico, with their resources, with their revenue, if they really try and actually get serious about supporting this program, I think both of those programs could be up and coming over the next few years in the Mountain West.
Well, and I appreciate you bringing that up because I did see his contract it's pretty incentive laden. Now I think, I can't speak for the others, but I did see his has incentives for obviously, winning on the field performance.
That's always good, yeah.
They have incentives for academics, and they have incentives for ticket sales.
That's great.
To me, that's, obviously on the field performance, but ticket sales. Yeah. You have a head coach, to me, that sounds like they're ready to build a program in Lobo land. They seem like they got the coach to do it. Give him time.
Yeah.
Give him time. But I'm anxious to see what they do. I agree with what you're saying there. The next one we've got Nevada. So Nevada. I say it wrong. Yeah. I got to say it the right way. But anyway, so we got them. Obviously, you were a little surprised. You were hoping their old coach would get one more year. Yes. Just a struggle there. They just got decimated a couple years back. But obviously the head coach, a lot of players left for Colorado State. It's just going to take some time to come back from that. But Jeff, is it Quixote? I don't know if I say that right. I'm going to say that's how you say it. 5 years, $5.75 million. This is a guy that was at Montana State. He's bounced around a good bit as well, but has definitely had some success. His days at Montana State, he's going back to the players, to the coaches that he knew there and players that he knew there, going to that well because he had a lot of success there at Montana State. So Joey Thomas, the passing game coordinator and secondary coach, Brian Armstrong, the running game coordinator and offensive line coach, and then a guy from Boise, Ken Ione, the DC. He'll be the defensive coordinator for Nevada. And he's pouring some really strong coaches here. Also, David Gilberton, wide receiver quarterback coach. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with Nevada. I think it's going to take them a little bit of time. Obviously, again, just like those other two teams that we talked about, we'll see what he can get done in 1 year. But again, three teams that at least this year were at the bottom of the Mountain West, trying to get more competitive, trying to get back into the contention here in the Mountain West. We'll see how it pays off. The only other one I'll mention, the Wyoming Cowboys, Jay Johnson, offensive coordinator and QB coach. Mentioned him briefly, but the last 4 years he was at Michigan State. His first couple years they had a really, really good team. Obviously, we know what happened this past year with just the head coach and things that went on there. And Aaron Bowl, the defensive coordinator, his old coach's son, Craig's son, stepping up into the DC position, and also will be the linebackers coach. A lot of solidity there at Wyoming. I'm anxious to see what this team's going to do. I'm going to have high expectations for them. So, first-year head coach in Jay Sawvell, but a lot of the pieces are still there. The support is still there. So I'm going to have pretty high expectations here for the Pokes going into next season.
You would think their defense would still stay really stout.
Yep.
It'll be interesting. I'm looking forward to when we do the preseason previews coming up over the offseason of what are they going to do at quarterback next year. I mean, that's going to be the thing.
Well, I'll tell you, a ton of returning starters for them, especially on the D side. A ton of guys, guys coming back for their 6th year now. Jordan, I just said he's coming back. The linebacker, I'm forgetting his name, said he's coming back. So they are all in Pokes.
Yeah.
They ride for the brand. They're there for the right reasons. And I'll be honest with you, Steve, I mentioned this on another chat that I'm on. I love Peasley. I love Peasley. Yeah. But I think Svoboda can be special here. Yeah. I think he can be special. So anyway, we're not talking players or teams yet. Do you have anything else with the Big Ten?
So there's one other move that we got to talk about. You forced me to talk about it.
Yes, I did.
Me. Okay. So obviously everybody knows if you've watched this show before, I'm a Penn State fan. So the news this week. The coaching, it was really strange. 2 of the greatest coaches of all time basically leave their positions at the same time. You have Nick Saban leaving Alabama. Yep. You have Bill Belichick leaving New England. And they have extensive coaching trees. While Bill O'Brien, his history, he has a long and storied history, was on the New York Giants staff, was on the New England staff, came and basically salvaged the Penn State football program, saved them from complete darkness and annihilation, basically. Had a great 2 years at Penn State. I know there were some Penn State fans that were bitter with him when he left to take the Houston Texans job. Yeah. I don't understand how anybody can be upset when you go from a college job to an NFL head coaching job. I mean, that's got to be, but whatever, that's another story. Yeah. But just a guy that I admire. Has great credentials. Coached Tom Brady. Christian Hackenberg had his really good year under him as a freshman. He coached. Now his name is escaping me. Bryce at Alabama. Basically, Alabama's best years of offense were in the last 5 years or so came Bryce Young under Alabama. I think he might have had Jalen Hurts there too. Just has a real, and Coach Deshaun Watson at Houston, and really had him developing as someone who looked like he was going to be a fantastic number 1 quarterback in the NFL. So that's his MO is he's going to come in, he's going to run a pro style offense, he's going to develop the quarterback. He loves the power running game and using that power running game, the pro style power running game, to set up the play action pass or to set up the old traditional 5-step drop passes. He's just a good, experienced coach. Now, what I find really interesting, well, first of all, I hate it because I'm a Penn State fan, and I hate seeing someone I adore as an Indy line coach go over to the Buckeyes. But it is what it is. But I really think it's interesting because for me, Ryan Day, fantastic play caller. We talked about this earlier in the season. I don't know yet if he's a real good head coach. Yeah. But what I do know about Ryan Day is he was a very good offensive coordinator and is a fantastic play caller no matter what hat he's wearing. So, melding that and what they've tried to do the last few years, Ryan Day was definitely more of a finesse, passing game, heavy. And Bill O'Brien, again, more pro style, use the power run game to set up the pass. I wonder how that's going to work out. Who's going to be calling plays? Two very strong personalities there. So I really wonder how that's going to work out. But to me, I've seen the moves that Ohio State has been making. We're not talking about players and personnel in this episode, but they've really added a lot of really good players. Yes. They retained a bunch of really good players from last year on defense and on offense. They have a new quarterback that they're excited about. This move really makes me think that they're going, in combination with those other personnel moves, they're going away from that finesse, passing attack, which can score 60 points against scrub teams,
Right.
to more of a power running game that can help them compete against Michigan, against Alabama, against Georgia, the top teams in the country. I think this is going to be a total change in style for them. We'll see how that works out. It could be amazing. Yeah. It could be an utter, dumpster fire. We'll see. But Bill O'Brien, offensive coordinator of the Buckeyes, Ohio State, huge news.
Well, and we mentioned in a previous episode, I think this is a bit of a make or break year for Ryan Day.
Oh, absolutely.
They have got to get into the playoff. Well, 12 team.
Make some noise.
Be a top four
yeah.
in the top in the playoffs, and yes, make some noise.
Possibly beat Michigan.
Honestly, into the national championship game. They have got to perform this year, and I'll tell you what they've done recently with player ads. This Bill O'Brien ad. If I was the Big Ten, Steve, I'd be shaking in my boots.
Yeah.
I hear what you're saying. It could be good or bad. It could be a disaster. I don't see anything about this being a disaster. I have confidence in Day. I said that early on. I appreciate him. I hear a little bit of your trepidation in terms of head coaching abilities, possibly. And again, that's why this is a make or break. He's either going to be the head coach to take this team, or he's not.
Right.
And they will have to move on because he's just not. He might be a good head coach, but he's not the head coach to win a national championship. Yep. So it is a make or break year for him. But I would have a lot of confidence in them. If I'm a Buckeye fan, I'm loving what's going on.
Ecstatic.
Loving what's going on. And if I'm the rest of the Big Ten, I am shaking in my boots. Mm-hmm. So that's just me. So hey, with that we're going to wrap this one up. Tomorrow we're going to drop a very lengthy episode on the grant of rights from a lawyer's perspective. We're going to kind of dissect what this lawyer has to say, and he really starts pinging holes into the iron of a grant of rights. Really interesting stuff. It's going to be a deep dive, pretty heavy. If you're interested in that, it's not really just for the ACC. It's anybody that has a grant of rights, which is pretty much any of the big conferences right now. So hey, you can tune back in on that. If you like what we're doing, give us a like, give us a subscribe. We'll see you next time on the Big Mountain.
Can't believe Bill O'Brien and his magnificent butt chin are going to be a Buckeye.